Yes, I didn't say. What are you looking so sad about, Champ?
I'm surprised. I mean, I'm really insulted. That's not right, what you just said.
What do you mean, what I just said?
I mean, I'm getting drink of water. I'm late getting home, but you talk. I said something about the greatest heavyweight champ, man. I'm a hometown man, and you talk about Joe Louis, man. Joe Louis wouldn't be nothing for me. Joe, I tell you, Joe, do you think you understand?
Well, Clay, one time during my career, I was on a Bomber of the Month tour.
I would have been a bum compared to you.
When you on the tour.
What's happening, my people? It's Cast Sports again, back for another afternoon with the family. That's right. You know what time it is. If it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all that boxing history. Boxing is the greatest sport of them all. That's why we love it. Can't get enough of it. Salute to everyone and welcome to another episode of Cast Sports, the Boxtorian. Today, boxing in Germany. Boxing in Germany. All right, we're going to continue our trip around the world today. It's Thursday. Today, Germany. Just a look at some history of boxing in Germany. And then basically, we're going to look at some boxers from Germany. Muhammad Ali fought Carl Mildenberger over there. We're going to look at that. It's a nice little story surrounding that fight. We're going to talk about that. Some of the top German boxers of all time. And we're going to take a look at two of them. Max Smelly on the screen and Carl Mildenberger. And we're going to look at some active German boxers. German ancestry. All that today on Cast Sports, the Boxtorian, bringing you all that boxing history. But first, we're going to have our fight of the day. Okay, we're just gonna dig down into the archives and find us a classic fight. Start the show off. So let's get into it. The fight of today. Okay, today's fight of the day is Matthew Hilton versus Buster Drayton. June 27th, 1987. A father guides his son to the title. Hilton versus Drayton, June 27th, 1987. Mike Mazik in the building. What's up, Mike? How are you today? Boxing in Germany today. But first, the fight of the day is Matthew Hilton versus Buster Drayton, June 27th, 1987. A father guides his son to the title 38 years ago. Okay, let's get into that. Let's salute Mike Mazik. Welcome aboard. Okay, excuse me. Fighting families are not exactly unique in boxing. Indeed, the history of prize fighting is filled with siblings who shared the profession, such as Max and Buddy Bayer, Leon and Michael Spinks, Gabriel and Rafael Ruelas, Gabby and Orlando Canizales, the Corey brothers, Mike, Jerry, and Bobby, and many others. And of course, there have been numerous father and son teams, such as Pat and Sean O'Grady, Jack and Shane Mosley, and Felix Trinidad, Sr. and Jr. But with little doubt, there's never been a boxing family quite like the Hiltons of Montreal, Canada. The fortunes, failures, tragedies, and tribulations of the legendary Hilton clan are the stuff of legend. Their story dramatic and sordid enough for a feature-length movie or a novel, likely more than one. Dave Hilton Sr. raised 5 sons and integrated them from an early age into the sweet science. Dave Jr. was the eldest, followed by Alex, Matthew, Stuart, and Jimmy. Okay. Here's a shot of the Hiltons as youngsters. The Fighting Hiltons. There's a shot of them. But the same man who trained and guided them also sowed the seeds for the setbacks and heartbreaks of the future. In a long and storied career that saw him answer the bell some 150 times, amateur and pro, and win 3 Canadian titles, the family patriarch also answered the bell countless times in various pubs and saloons all over Canada and the United States. Tipping the bottle as much a staple of his life as stepping through the ropes. But if Hilton bequeathed to his offspring a wild macho ethos, lacking in restraint, one which opened the door to alcohol abuse and numerous criminal convictions for 3 of his sons, he also fostered their natural fighting talent. A more than capable boxer, Dave Sr. was arguably an even better trainer. Okay? arguably an even better trader than he was a fighter. Mm-hmm. There's a shot of Dave Sr., the patriarch of the Hilton family, right there. Okay, let's continue. A strict teacher. Matthew told Sports Illustrated William Knack, either you do it or you don't. There were times when he would be giving us boxing lessons and we wouldn't do something the way he told us, and he'd say, take off your gloves and go get dressed. And that strict approach and guidance led to success. A fact reflected by the Hiltons' tremendous records as amateurs. Excuse me. Dave Jr. went 130-2. Alex went 103-1. Matthew 106-0. And Stewart, who would perish in a car accident in 1980, 90-6. Very successful amateur boxers, okay? With the eldest three each winning 3 Canadian Golden Gloves titles. But while those amateur accomplishments were impressive, they were of course not the end goal. Dave Sr. was determined to bring his sons to a level of pro success that exceeded his own, and that meant winning a world championship. Okay? He wanted world titles for his sons. And there's Dave Jr., Alex, and Dave Sr. on the right, showing off hardware. Dave Jr. and Alex both won titles. Okay? The word in boxing circles was that Davey Jr. was the one destined for greatness. His skill so impressive that no less an authority than Angelo Dundee himself, after watching him spar in the early 80s, called him one of the best boxers he had ever seen. But in 1986, and despite being undefeated in 23 fights, Davey appeared intent on sabotaging his own progress. He had injured himself in a motorcycle accident and had since been charged with impaired driving. For now, at least, his career was on hold. There's Matthew, right behind Davey Sr., clowning with his mother. Mm-hmm. So Davey Sr. career was on hold because he had an accident and had charges of drunk driving, impaired driving. Thus, it was Matthew, not Davey Jr., who got the first chance at championship glory. After scoring big wins over former world champions Vito Antuofermo and Wilfred Benitez, to offer to battle IBF junior middleweight champion Buster Drayton at the famous Montreal Forum came the younger brother's way. Okay? The fight was broadcast live on ABC television with Jim Lantley and Alex Wallach providing the ringside commentary to a huge audience in both Canada and the United States. This was the chance for the Hiltons to shine on the big stage and for Davey Hilton Sr. to achieve a decades-old dream, to see one of his sons hold what he never did, that shiny gold belt, a world championship. This Matthew had a huge win over Wilfred Benitez, okay? And that set up his historic title shot, the win over Benitez did. Okay? So spurred on by his father and determined to please the mob of hometown fans cheering him on, Matthew got off to a tremendous start. His trademark power was evident early, as a big overhead right slammed home and put Drayton on the canvas in the very first round. Now, although the champion beat the Celt, his legs were unsteady, and Hilton searched for the finish. He threw every ounce of his weight into his thunderous punches, ripping the body with hooks and attacking the chin with uppercuts. But Drayton, showing the poise of a hardened veteran, prevented the decisive haymaker from landing. The tough Philadelphian survived the round, but it was clear he was in the fight of his life against young Hilton. Okay, that's just a promotion of the fight middleweight championship. Matthew Hilton, Buster Drayton. Okay, let's continue with the story. Now, Hilton picked up where he left off in the second round and continued to find success in the early rounds. His punches were wide and looping, but effective, as they packed a ton of power. And in what became a theme of the fight, he showed tremendous commitment to attacking the elder champion's midsection, nailing Drayton's rib cage at every opportunity, especially with his money punch, the left hook. But Drayton returned fire to the body as best he could, attempting to slow down his much younger challenger. He recovered from the early onslaught and eventually managed to find his rhythm and make the battle competitive. The fight became a torrid back and forth affair, each taking turns to land their artillery, both refusing to concede anything to their adversary. Okay, there's a shot of Buster right there, Buster Drayton. Came into the fight as the champion. Al Booger in the building. What's up, Al Booger? Fight of the day, Matthew Hilton versus Buster Drayton. Matthew Hilton of the Fighting Hiltons. It was 5 of them, plus the father was a fighter too. And Matthew is the first one that got the title shot. He was the second to the oldest. Okay, let's continue. That's a shot of Buster Drayton, the champion, on the screen there. Now, while Hilton's bombs away style produced dramatic knockouts and created excitement for the fans, it had its inherent vulnerabilities. Doing everything behind every punch drains a fighter's gas tank, no matter how good one's conditioning. Combine that with a foe as battle-tested as Drayton, and that meant potential trouble for the younger challenger. Matthew wasn't able to score any early round victory, and now he had to rely on his stamina to take him the distance in a fight scheduled for 15 rounds. It's still in the 80s, 15 rounds. The Boom Boom Mancini Duke Kim tragedy had happened, but they hadn't went from 15 to 12 yet. Okay, it was on the way, but this was still a 15 rounder. Now, with Hilton pacing himself and attacking in spurts, Drayton was able to get some solid work in, but the champion's punches lacked the force of the challengers. Even when they landed clean, they were not enough to hurt the bull-strong Canadian. It's also possible that, despite being in excellent condition, Drayton's many years as a professional had taken their toll. At times, it appeared he just lacked the necessary energy to test and push Hilton during those precious moments when the challenger was looking to rest. It is Hilton after the fight right there. Matthew and his father. Oh, that was before the opening bell. They're getting ready for the stare down right there. That's Dave Sr. on the right there. Okay. And so Hilton hammered away, forcing Drayton to fight his fight, one where his greatest strength and power were the difference. Drayton deserves high praise for absorbing such punishment, especially to the body, without ever wilting Although Matthew couldn't fight entire rounds with high intensity, he did enough to keep Drayton on the defensive and show the judges he was the boss. As the championship rounds unfolded, the crowd was on its feet, cheering their man, imploring him to keep going. Yeah, they was in Canada, Matthew's home. As Matthew would later say, "I will never forget that night. There were 9,000 people, but it felt like there were 30,000. That's how loud they were." Hilton responded to their support by ramping up the pressure, closing his show with nonstop aggression. He continued to force exchanges, getting clipped himself on a few occasions, but never relenting, just driving forward and throwing bombs. There they are, continuing the battle. This was a 15-round war, okay? Now, Hilton wants a knockout, stated Jim Lampley around 14. It's his instinct to go for it. And despite being well ahead on points, Matthew continued to look for the finish as the fans roared in appreciation. You will seldom see a more spectacular demonstration of sheer courage and competitiveness on the part of two boxers, remarked Lampley. They are completely spent. Despite this, they traded furiously until the final bell, both digging deep in search of victory and glory. Lampley's commentating partner, Alice Wallace, summed it up well. Again, Buster Drayton tries to respond, but in his mid-30s, the oldest champion in boxing today just does not have it. This was the day he came up empty. He conditioned himself as well as he could. He fought with all his heart, but he came up against a young, tough kid who just had too much. And Lampley added, he's going to lose this title. A great story comes to a close, and another great story begins. Yep, and there's Matthew, who won the fight. Matthew Hilton. But only half of Lampley's statement came true. While Hilton would win by unanimous decision, remarkably becoming the first Canadian-born world champion since 1943. This would be the peak of his career. Despite being only 21 years old and seemingly having an amazingly bright future ahead of him, Hilton would fail to live up to his tremendous potential. Looking back, Matthew himself believes the reason, ironically, was because he succeeded in that title fight. When I won the belt, after my fight with Drayton, my career was done. My life goal had been achieved. I didn't have any motivation or discipline to train. After that, my heart just wasn't in it. But in addition to a lack of athletic discipline and motivation, Matthew, along with his brothers, could rarely resist the allure of the bottle and the impulsive and asinine decisions that often followed. Over the years, it became difficult to keep track of how many times the boys were arrested. The long list of prison stints are a result of numerous drunk driving violations, assaults, and robberies. It all culminating in the horror of David Jr.'s convictions for sexually assaulting his own daughters. Okay, yeah, they were wild guys, just like their father used to be when he was younger. Okay, and that's the following year, Matthew lost his title to Robert Hines in Las Vegas. Just 17 months after his great triumph in his home city, a poorly conditioned Matthew struggled to make weight for a second title defense, and the unheralded Robert Hines battered him and took his title by decision. Hilton failed to ever regain his championship form, and he never notched another significant victory. The painful truth, of course, is that Matthew and his brothers might have accomplished so much more. Davy Sr. blamed himself for their dissolute ways. Like father, like son. Davy Sr. said, all their lives, total strangers had regaled the boys with the exploits of their father, the bar fights and the night lights and the left hook. I was a hero to all of them, he says. It wasn't good. They all wanted to be like me. They thought it was quite a life. And there is Senior. Nice shot of Dave Hilton Sr. The patriarch of the family. Yep. But at the same time, it was the elder Hilton, the legendary brawler and barfly, who guided them to boxing success, and who was in Matthew's corner when the long-held dream was finally realized. Looking back, despite the disappointments and the pain of alcohol abuse, the Fighting Hiltons will always have this one great triumph, the glorious, unforgettable day when Matthew Hilton went to war with Buster Drayton for 15 furious rounds and won a world championship for his country and his clan. There you have it, the fight of the day. Matthew Hilton from the Fighting Hilton brothers won their only championship. And there they are. Dave Sr. out on the front row, second from the left. Fighting Hiltons. All right. So today, it's going to be boxing in Germany. Okay? Thursday. We continue our trip around the world looking at different countries. I knew we were up to the eyes. We did Italy last week, but then I just remembered I missed Germany. So we had to go back. Okay. But there's probably the greatest German boxer of all time right there. Max Schmeling. Okay. So excuse me for one moment, please. Okay. Unbelievable. It's Thursday already. How's everybody today this Thursday afternoon? Seems like the week just started, but yeah, it's Thursday already. But boxing in Germany today. Okay. Yeah, that took us all the way to 2:30. Wow. Okay. Let's go. Yeah, that's Max Schmeling. Probably the best, the most well-known German boxer of all time, heavyweight. We're going to talk about some of the current German boxers too, like Ajit Karbayel, probably the best German boxer currently. Yeah, Ajit. He's got the only one that probably could have a chance of taking Usyk's title right now would be Karbayel, I think. Yeah. I can't see that guy. Just be Joe Parker. I even forgot his name. Beating Usyk. I would like to see Karbayel get the shot. But let's go. Boxing in Germany. First, a little history. Okay. Boxing emerged in Germany during the 1920s, becoming a popular sport and a symbol of national prestige, particularly through the career of heavyweight champion Max Schmeling. Excuse me. However, the sport was also used for political purposes by the Nazi regime, which persecuted Jewish and Sinti boxers like Johann Kelly Trollman. We got a nice piece on Johann too. After World War II, the sport continued with famous boxers like Henry Mass and the Klitschko brothers, popularizing it again. The Klitschko brothers played out most of their career in Germany. And after the war, Henry Mass and the Klitschko brothers popularized the sport again in Germany. Okay, the Weimar Republic, 1920s. Now, boxing in 1920s Germany evolved into major sporting events with significant media attention. Max Schmeling began his career during this period, moving to Berlin in 1924 and winning a European light heavyweight championship title in 1927. His career was marked by his victory over Joe Louis in 1936, a moment leveraged by Nazi propaganda, though Schmeling later distanced himself from the Nazi regime. Another prominent boxer was the Cinto Johann Rickelli Trollman. Despite his talent, he faced significant discrimination and was stripped of his German light heavyweight title by the Nazis in 1933 due to his ethnicity. He was a Cinto, okay? It was an ethnic group over there in Germany at the time. So they stripped him of his title because of his ethnicity. He was later murdered in a concentration camp. Okay, so Nazi Germany's 1930s, 1945. The Nazi regime used Max Schmeling as a propaganda tool to promote its claims of Aryan racial superiority, especially during his high-profile fights against American boxer Joe Louis. Jewish and Sinti athletes were systematically purged from German sports associations. This included the expulsion and persecution of boxers such as Erich Seelig and Johann Trollman. Some prisoners in concentration camps, such as Jewish boxer Harry Haft, were forced to fight in boxing fights for the amusement of the SS guards, with the losers often being killed. Okay? The losers often being killed. Irony boxing. Salute. Boxing in Germany today. Okay? All right, let's continue. Yeah. Some of the fighters were taken to concentration camp, Jewish and Sinti ethnicity, and forced to fight for the amusement of the Nazi guards. And a lot of times, the loser of the fights were murdered. So post-war Germany, 1945 to 1990. Okay, following World War II, boxing in Germany developed separately in East and West Germany, though figures like Schmeling continued to be prominent in the West. West German boxer Karl Mildenberger held the European heavyweight title from 1964 to 1968 and fought Muhammad Ali in 1966. So we're going to talk about that fight a little bit later. Okay. Amateur boxing was also prominent, especially in East Germany. So the reunification and modern era, 1990 to the present. 1990 to the present. The Klitschko brothers, who made their careers in Germany, were a major factor in the resurgence of boxing popularity in Germany in the 1990s and 2000s. Okay? Promoters like Universum Box Promotion helped create a hub for boxing in Germany, attracting international talent, and showcasing new German champions. Heavyweights such as Ajit Karbayel and Manuel Char have emerged in recent years, carrying on Germany's boxing legacy. Yeah, we're going to talk about them later too. Ajit Karbayel. Okay, so now we got a little story on Trollman. You're the guy, the Cinto ethnicity, who was persecuted by the Nazis. He was actually murdered in a concentration camp. There he is, Trollman. So we're going to talk about him for a minute. Excuse me for one moment again. Last interruption. Last interruption. Okay, we're back. Miss Cass gave me her coal. I move it in slow motion. Okay. I hope I sound okay. All right. Yeah. Rukeli Trollman. Pro boxer Rukeli Trollman. Cento and quick on his feet. Athletic, elegant. Yeah, we're going to talk about him for a little while now. Boxing in Germany today. Okay. Everybody okay? It's Thursday. We got the rematch between Chris Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn, carrying on their father's famous rivalry. Eubank Jr. got the first fight in this one. I'm picking him by decision this time. A lot of people got Eubank stopping Conor this time. So, yeah, we'll see. It's Saturday. Okay. So in 1920s Germany, fights evolved into huge sporting events that enjoyed a great deal of media attention. Professional boxer Rukeli Trollman was among the audience's absolute favorites. He became the German light heavyweight champion in 1933, but the Nazis stripped him of his title a few days after he won it for spurious reasons. Okay? They bullied Rukeli because he was a Cento, but also because of his modern and un-German fighting style. Quick on his feet, athletic, elegant, many saw in Rukeli Trollman the special boxing style for which Muhammad Ali would later become famous. Rukeli was ahead of his time and beat his opponents with speed and a technique that well-disposed reporters called fist fencing. However, some press reviews and sports officials vilified him as a dancing gypsy years before the Nazis seized power. Even in 1929, the German Boxing Association removed his name from the list of participants for the Olympic Games in Amsterdam. Instead, a weaker boxer was sent who Rukeli had already beat numerous times. Okay? Just because of his ethnicity, they removed him from wouldn't even let him go to the Olympic Games, replaced by a boxer he had beat many times before. But a meteoric rise. Johann Rukeli Trollman was born into a Sinti family near Gifhorn on December 27, 1907. He gained his nickname Rukeli as a boxer due to his athletic figure. Ruk means tree in the Romani language. Rukeli grew up in Hanover, where he took up boxing at the age of 8. He was already a 4-time regional champion and had won the North German Championship by the age of 20. He began a professional career at middleweight and light heavyweight boxing, and his fights filled bigger and bigger venues. Okay, Rukeli. There's a shot of Rukeli third from right and some other amateur boxers in 1929. That was they was from the Sparta Boxing Club in Hanover, Germany. Yeah, Rukeli is third from the right. Okay, with the third from the right there. On the side, it's got 29. 1, 2, 3. That's Rukeli. Okay. So, Rukeli only boxed against the best opponents. at national and international level from 1932 on. He became a problem for the Nazis after they seized power in January 1933, as R. Kelly, being a Cento, undermined the image they wanted to project of superior German fighters. At the same time, he had already become too popular and successful for them to exclude him from boxing without reason. Boxing was at the heart of the Nazi fighting ideology. The matches of model athlete Max Schmeling model athlete Max Schmeling were particularly exploited for propaganda purposes. Aryan superiority was supposed to be demonstrated in German fistfighting, although many non-Aryan boxers fought very successfully in Germany, and African Americans dominated the sport internationally. Okay, so stripped of the championship title now. Yeah, they stripped him. Mike Reb has arrived. Salute, Mike. This is boxing in Germany today. We're talking about Johann Trollmann, German boxer of Cento ethnicity, and the Nazis has persecuted this guy. But stripped of championship title. Okay, I told you they stripped it. R. Kelly fought for the German championship title in front of 1,500 spectators on June 9th, 1933. He was far superior to his opponent. Nevertheless, the judges wanted to score the fight as a draw on instructions of the Nazi officials who were present. The outraged audience protested until R. Kelly was declared the winner. However, the association stripped him of his title just days later. A final fight in Berlin ended R. Kelly's career on July 21st, 1933. Threats were made to revoke his boxing license if he did not abandon his dance-like style this time, and instead face up to the fight. Out of protest, R. Kelly dyed his hair blonde, powdered his skin white, and stood right in front of his opponent. With his arms hanging down at his sides and without any show of resistance, he allowed himself to be knocked out. He lost his boxing license a short time later. I guess he just got fed up with the Nazis and their antics. So he just stood there and let the guy knock him out. And then he lost his boxing license. He stripped him of his license, okay? So, R. Kelly Trollmann's achievements as a sportsman and his tragic persecution were only acknowledged at a late stage. The Association of German Professional Boxers officially recognized him as the 1933 German light heavyweight champion in 2003. The city of Hanover opened a road called Johann Trollmann Way 1 year later. A sports hall in Berlin was named after him in 2011. There are further memorials in Berlin, Hanover, and Hamburg. Films and plays also remind of R. Kelly's story today. Yeah, after he died, they finally recognized the man, but he was murdered in a concentration camp by the Nazi Party. Okay? Persecuted as a gypsy. Okay? R. Kelly married in Berlin in June 1935 and had a daughter in the same year. The enactment of the Nuremberg race laws on September 15, 1935 marked the start of a severe ordeal for him, as well as for all Sinti and Roma. R. Kelly underwent forced sterilization at the end of December 1935. In 1938, he divorced his wife to protect her and their daughter. He was detained at the Hanover labor camp several months and was drafted into the German army for military service in 1939. Kelly fought in Poland, Belgium, France, and on the Eastern Front, where he was wounded. In February 1942, he, like all gypsies, was discharged from the army for racial reasons. The Gestapo arrested him once again in Hanover in June of 1942. They remember he was forced to box. Kelly was taken to Nuremberg concentration camp, where he not only had to perform the toughest forced labor, but was also constantly ordered to compete in boxing fights in the evenings. He died on February 9th, 1943, according to the original death certificate at the Arosan Archives, due to heart and circulatory failure with bronchopneumonia. Over 20 years later, however, one of his fellow inmates made a witness statement that brought the truth to light. The man claimed to have himself witnessed Kelly being bullied, tortured, and finally beaten to death with a club at the Wittenberg subcamp by Capo. That's a concentration camp inmate with a supervisory role. He was beaten to death by this guy who had been beaten by Kelly during the boxing fight. This document is also stored at the Arosan Archives. Yeah, the guy, he beat the guy, they forced the guys to fight, right? So he beat the guy in the fight, and the guy had a supervisory role as an inmate, and he beat him to death with a club, right? They tried to say it was heart failure or something, but 20 years later, another inmate stepped forward and told the truth about what actually happened. He was murdered. Yeah. Cameron Terrell in the building. What's up, Cameron? How are you today? This is Boxing in German. Okay. So now we're going to talk about some fighters, some top German fighters. Like now, the first one is going to be Max Schmeling, of course. Probably the greatest German fighter of them all. Max. Yeah, beat Joe Louis. One time. Yeah. Max was one of the first fighters to study film. Yes, he was, Max Schmeling. And that's how he beat Joe Louis. He saw Joe Louis always drop that jab. Well, when he threw the jab, when he brought it back, he always carried it low, right? And Max went over top of that and hurt him in the fourth round. Joe never recovered from that. But the second fight, yeah, y'all know the story. Joe Louis beat the man in 2 minutes and 4 seconds of the first round, and the man spent 2 months in the hospital from that beating. Hit him so hard with a body shot, he broke his back. Remember? We was talking about that the other day. Remember, Al Booger? Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about Max Schmeling. Probably I know the most popular German boxer of all time. Definitely that. But we got some good ones now, and we're going to talk about them. Abbott Carballo and some of those guys in a little while. But now Max Schmeling. Yeah, it's Max and Joe Louis on there, as a matter of fact. Okay. Yeah, let's talk about Max, German fighter. Okay. So, now YouTube fanboy set up Max Schmeling. His resume is nobody's. That is a perfect example of a modern fanboy who doesn't understand boxing and has never watched a live fight in his life. To say Max Schmeling resume was full of nobodies. He fought Joe Louis, Max Baer, Jack Sharkey, all them big time heavyweights from back in the day. So yeah, somebody say Max Schmeling resume. Yeah, It was spinal. That's right, Cameron. Yeah, that's the same. Al Booker was saying the other day. Yeah, and spent 2 months in the hospital for a 2-minute fight. That was crazy, wasn't it? Now, Max Mellon, a former undisputed heavyweight champion, right? The first man to beat Joe Louis, the only man to beat Joe Louis in his prime, is a boxing immortal with a well-earned place as a member of the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He went in on the first year. They opened it in 1990 in the old timers category. Max Mellon did. Yes, he did. Now, the facts and quotes below are taken from a number of sources, but these facts come from a number of sources. Now, Max Mellon is ranked number 27 of all time out of 31,877 ranked by BoxRec, and is a deserving member of the International Boxing Hall of Fame, right? Like I was saying, he's the only fighter to beat Joe Louis in his first career, in his prime, okay? Out of 53 other boxers, including former world heavyweight champions. And Max Mellon was an even better human being than he was a boxer, okay? And he faced all the greats of his era, okay? All of them. You compare the level of a fighter's competition, when he fought them, and the results. Hall of Fame and quality fighters faced by Max Mellon. Joe Louis twice, Jack Sharkey twice, Max Baer, the Tory Bulldog, Mickey Walker, and Young Stribley. He had 7 fights against future Hall of Famers, winning 4 of them. The only future Hall of Famer Mellon failed to defeat at least once was Max Baer. And Max Baer denied him a rematch, okay? Yeah, him and Max Baer never had a rematch. Mellon also fought 4 world champions, defeating 2 of them. He also faced tough contenders, Paulino Uscadun, Walter Nussel, Joe Sacra, Adolf Heiser, and Steve Hamas, among others. Those fighters alone had well over 300 wins between them. Now, how did Max Mellon come to be a boxer in the first place? Okay, how did he come to be a fighter? Maximilian Adolf Otto Siegfried Mellon was born in the Prussian province of Brandenburg in 1905. He first became interested in boxing as a teenager when his father took him to watch a theater film of the heavyweight championship fight between Jack Dempsey and Georges Carpenter. Dempsey became the young Mellon's idol, and Max decided to become a boxer himself. He began boxing in amateur competitions, and in 1924 won Germany's national amateur title as a light heavyweight. Mellon then turned professional in the fall of 1924. Now, though Dempsey was his hero, Mellon developed a careful, scientific style of boxing, very much akin to Dempsey's nemesis, Gene Tunney. Yeah, he had a style. Dempsey was his idol, but he had a style more like Gene Tunney. A hint that Max Mellon was a different type of human being came in 1928 when he hired Joe Jacobs, who was Jewish, to be his manager. And despite the best efforts of the Nazi Party to make him fire Jacobs, Mellon stayed with Jacobs through thick and thin until Jacobs' death in 1939. Yeah, the Nazi Party, they had that with their propaganda, they were saying this Aryan superiority, and they was using Max Mellon as a propaganda tool because he was such a good boxer. And then he hired this Jewish manager, and they just hated that. They tried to get him to fire him, but no, Max kept him until Joe Jacobs died, okay? Wouldn't fire him. Now, Max Mellon rose from German amateur light heavyweight champion to world professional heavyweight boxing champion. In 1928, Smelling entered the top 10, an unusually fast rise at number 3. And in 1930, Max won the title on a foul from Jack Sharkey, the only heavyweight to ever do so. You're the only one to win the title on a foul. Yes, remember we was talking about yesterday, it was something between Max Smelling and Jack Sharkey. That was it, yeah. When he beat Jack Sharkey, he's the only heavyweight champion ever to win the title on a foul. Okay? Yeah, that was what I was trying to. I knew it was something. Okay? That was in 1928. No. 1930. 1930. That was. And he lost it to Sharkey in their rematch in 1932. So virtually everyone in attendance, including Dempsey and Gene Tunney, thought the German had won comfortably, but they was trying to get it away from him, right? They did not want him to have that title, right? Because they didn't want Hitler to keep using it as a propaganda. So everybody said he beat Sharkey and beat him widely in the rematch, but they gave it to Sharkey, right? Now Jack Dempsey, who had no love for Sharkey, was particularly outraged, and even Tunney, who liked Sharkey, but was known for complete even-handedness, agreed with Dempsey that the German had been robbed. The fight was broadcast worldwide on radio by NBC. The announcer was Graham McNamee, and he was joined by Charles Francis Coe, a well-known boxing writer, as analysts. Now, both men believed and broadcast that Smelling had won by a wide margin and made it clear on the air that they thought the German had been robbed. Now, the New York State Athletic Commission was outraged with the broadcast since it fanned the claims the fight had been somehow fixed. And then the commission decided in the future that only boxing experts could broadcast descriptions of future fights. And they defined expert as sports writers, referees, or judges. But one of those guys was a sports writer. So, yeah. Now, defeat by stoppage to Max Baer in his second fight after losing the title seemed to finish Smelling as a serious contender, especially after it was followed by a decision loss to the lightly regarded Steve Hamas. So everybody thought Max was finished after that, okay? 2 losses in a row like that. Everybody said, well, that's it for the German guy. But wins over tough pros Walter Newsom, a draw and a win over Warhorse Paulino Oscar Dunn, and a knockout of Hamas in their rematch, coupled with Baer's ascension to the title, brought Smelling back to the number 2 contender slot and a date with destiny with the number 1 contender, the rising Joe Louis. Now, this is significant. Louis was ranked number 1. Smelling was ranked number 2 when they had that fight. So Max Smelling stopped Joe Louis in the only loss Joe suffered in his prime. Okay? In 1936, with the backdrop of Nazi Germany and Hitler, the number 2 ranked contender and former heavyweight champion, German Max Smelling, stunned the world and beat number 1 contender and rising superstar, Joe Louis. Louis was a 10-1 favorite to win the fight. But Smelling, one of the first fighters to use film to study his opponents, had noticed Joe Louis carried his left low and dropped it after jabbing, leaving him open to counters. Max countered with hard rights the entire fight, finally stopping the Brown Bomber in the 12th round. And he really caught him good for the first time in the 4th round. And Joe Louis never recovered from that shot in the 4th round. And Max finally got him in the 12th. Okay? So, the German Nazi regime made Smelling's victory a propaganda event for the Nazi party, for their Superman myth, right? Even though Smelling himself was never a Nazi. But a lot of people didn't like him just because he was German, and they associated him with the Nazis. And Smelling was denied his rightful title shot from 1936 to 1937. That's why I was saying it was significant. Joe Louis was number 1 contender, Smelling was number 2, like we talked about yesterday, and it was a title eliminator. And Smelling beat Joe Louis, but guess who got the title shot? Joe Louis, because they didn't want Smelling to get another shot at that title. They didn't want the Nazis to get their hand on it. But after he beat Joe Louis, now the number one contender, Max was denied his title shot as James Braddock milked the title by not defending it and making personal appearances. Now the U.S. boxing establishment, knowing Braddock would not defeat Smelling and desperate to deny the Germans another propaganda victory, shelved the number one contender and in 1937 wantonly ignored a contract so the number two contender, Joe Louis, could fight for and win the title. And his first defense was against Smelling. See, Joe Louis went against him. Now, remember, Smelling beat Joe Louis, but they denied Smelling the fight because they didn't want the Nazis to get their hand on the title. So they gave it to Joe Louis. And Joe Louis beat Braddock. And Joe Louis went against the establishment and fought Smelling because he wanted to get his get back. They was kind of upset at Joe at that time because they didn't want no champion to fight Max Smelling. But Joe Louis said, I'm not even going to call myself the champion until I beat Smelling. So Joe Louis said, I don't care what y'all say. I'm fighting Smelling. So Smelling got his shot, finally. He should have got it before Joe Louis, but he did get it. Because Joe Louis' first defense was against Smelling, right? And Smelling's destruction by Joe Louis in the rematch. Joe Louis said he would never feel like the true champion until he beat Smelling. And in their second fight, he destroyed the German in what is one of the worst beatings in history. Louis floored Smelling 3 times in the first round and hit him so hard that Smelling was hospitalized after the fight. A doctor who treated him said, Smelling suffered fractures of the transverse processes of the 3rd and 4th lumbar vertebrae with a hemorrhage of the lumbar muscles. I guess that means spinal, like Al Booker and Cameron said. Yeah, that's just fancy term. All they could have said was spinal. He ended the spinal, right? But anyway, when Max Smelling returned to Germany after the defeat to Joe Louis, Smelling was completely shunned by the Nazis. Yeah, they was upset with him. He's lucky they didn't kill him. He's lucky, very lucky they didn't kill him. But he was still had value to him as a fighter, I guess so. But despite being out of favor with the Nazis, he was spared arrest and allowed to fight. Yeah, that's why they didn't kill him and arrest him, because he still had value as a fighter to him. And then he won both the German and European heavyweight championships on February 7th, 1939, with a first round knockout of Adolf Heiser. Okay? Let me see something. Refresh this thing because I might be missing all kinds of people coming in. Okay, we're good. Yeah, he won the German and European titles. He beat Adolf Heiser. It was Smelling's last fight for 8 years. Max, still not in the good graces of the Nazis, was forced into the Nazi army and sent to the front to fight. So they still had to punish him for that Joe Louis loss. They let him fight a few more times, then they forced him into the army and sent him to the front lines to fight. Now during the war, Max, despite being 35 years old by then, was assigned to the paratroopers and forced to fight on the front lines by the Nazis, who resented that he had never joined the Nazi party. He was overage for the paratroopers. The assignment was strictly retaliation for his refusal to join the Nazi party, his refusal to fire his Jewish manager, and his loss to Joe Louis. Nonetheless, Max, though wounded and crippled, survived the war and came home to a ruined Berlin completely destitute. Despite being worn down, partially crippled from a right knee wound, and 42 years old, Smelling resumed his career in order to get food for his wife, who was starving, right? He continued his career to get food for him and his wife. They were starving. So let's look at him after World War II. Max after World War II, when he came back from the war. He'd been injured, right? I said he had permanently injured knee, but he had to fight because that's all he knew, and he had to get some money for him and his family. Now, Max fought 5 fights after the war, winning 3, despite effectively fighting on one leg. Remember, his knee was permanently injured. Fighting on one leg, won 3 out of 5 fights, though, and retired for the second and final time at age 43, with enough money to invest in a new business, which had come to Germany in return for a small investment, and his willingness to serve as a German spokesman for Coca-Cola. He was allowed to buy an interest in his own bottling plant and held an executive position within the company. Now, eventually, he owned an entire plant himself and worked his way up the company ladder as well. Once penniless and hungry, he was now wealthy. Now, Max Schmeling's boxing career and why he is in the Hall of Fame. Max was undisputed world heavyweight boxing champion. Max faced 4 future Hall of Fame fighters, winning 3 at least once in 7 fights. Max was the only fighter to defeat Joe Louis in his first career, and the only one to beat him in his prime, right? And along with Rocky Marciano, he's the only one of 2 fighters to stop Joe Louis. Okay, him and Rocky was the only ones to stop him. Joe only had 3 losses. He had another one to Ezra Charles. That one went the distance, remember? He really lost to Jersey Joe Walcott, but they robbed Jersey Joe and gave it to Joe Louis. It was so bad, the robbery, after they robbed Jersey Joe and gave it to Joe Louis actually went over to Jersey Joe Walcott's corner and apologized to him. Okay? Yeah, there we go, Al Booger, Spinal. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So 3 losses. Stopped by Rocky and Max Schmeling in a decision loss to Ezra Charles. Max won 56 fights, 39 by knockout. And in his career prior to the war, at age 35 and younger, he was 53-8 with 38 knockouts against the very best fighters of his age. Okay. Oh man, there I go. He won 56 fights with 39 knockouts. Let's see what that is. Knockout ratio. We gotta know, right? Oh, 70. 69.6, just 70%. Okay. All right, so Max entered the top 10 rankings in 1929 at number 3 and was champion in 1930 and 31 and number 1 contender in 1932, 1936, and 1937. All told, Max Schmeling was ranked as a top 10 contender for an incredible 10 straight years, 1928 through 1937, and rejoined the rankings in 1939. He was taken out of the rankings in 1940 because of the war. Remember, he didn't fight for like 8 years. Max is the only fighter to defeat Joe Louis in his prime. Okay? And Max Schmeling was an even better human being than he was a boxer. He faced all the greats of his era. Okay? And Max Schmeling was never a Nazi, as painted by the American press. Right? Max was painted as a Nazi during the pre-World War II era, especially by American media. And the media outdid itself during this period, around and after the Louis Schmeling fights. Max was painted as a goose-stepping Nazi and a villain of the First Water, but he never was. Nothing could have been further from the truth. The media had Max Schmeling as a willing model for Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich, the self-proclaimed Aryan Superman. Schmeling evidently once lunched with Hitler and had lengthy conversations with Goebbels, master propagandist of the Nazi regime. But his tale is far more complex than it first appears. Schmeling, when he won the title and returned to Germany, was summoned to meet Hitler. As he told his wife, to refuse would have meant both their deaths. Okay? They would have killed both of them. Smelling told his wife, Czech actress Anna Andra, who related the story to others, that he had no choice if he was living in Germany but to appear compliant with the government. But he drew the line when Hitler sent word for him to fire his manager, Joe Jacobs, who was Jewish. Smelling refused, and that refusal would cost him dearly half a decade later. That's when they sent him into the army and everything, remember? Yeah, he kept Joe Jacobs until he died. Now, people today simply have no comprehension of the courage it took to tell the Nazis, to tell Hitler himself, that a German athlete would retain a Jewish manager. Max Schmeling was an even better human being than a boxer. Max had read in 1950 about the troubles his old rival Joe Louis was having, and off he went to the United States to visit Joe Louis and to see if he could help. Because remember, Max was wealthy by then, okay? Max felt, as he told his wife, that they were so lucky that they should share their good fortune with his old rival, who Max admired. In a story you could not invent, Max became fast friends with Joe Louis and assisted his former rival financially from then on, repeatedly helping him avoid homelessness and poverty. The only thing Max asked of his friend was that Joe not tell anyone what he was doing. The once bitter rivals became like brothers. When Joe Louis died, his family was unable to pay for his funeral. Very quietly, Max Schmeling paid for Joe's funeral in 1981. Knowing that his widow was destitute, Max asked an old friend to take her a large sum of cash to make sure she was comfortable. And he was pallbearer at Joe Louis's funeral. Max Schmeling was. Okay, and he rescued 2 Jewish teenagers at one point in his life too. Okay, so let's move on to the next person. Max is kind of long there. Max Schmeling is one of the kindest, most decent, and bravest athletes, not just boxers of all time, and a real world hero of the First Order for his heroism in refusing to fire his Jewish manager, even though it put his life and his wife's at risk, for his saving the lives of 2 boys, 2 Jewish teenagers, and defying the Nazis during the night of broken glass, for his literally barring the door with his body to the Gestapo during Crystal Night, while 2 little boys hid in terror, for his kindness and charity towards his old friend Joe and once rival Joe Louis, for his support of Joe and even Joe's widow after Joe's death. Okay, Max Schmeling. Okay, so now we're gonna look at Max Schmeling. Karl Mildenberger. Okay, another great German boxer. Karl Mildenberger. Ali went over to Germany to fight him. It is Karl Mildenberger and Ali right there. Okay. Yeah, let's take a look at Karl Mildenberger now. Boxing in Germany today. Every Thursday we look at boxing in a country. I had got up, we're going in alphabetical order. I had got up to the eyes and realized I went right past Germany. You know, you got to, Germany is big. We're going to look at some current German boxers too in a moment. Okay? And some other great German fighters. We're going to look at some current ones too. Like Ajit Carvalho. Great fighter. I want to see him in Usyk. I think he's the only one got a chance against Usyk right now. Carvalho. But Usyk probably won't fight him. Don't have to. Usyk has done enough. He don't have to fight anybody he don't want to now. And nobody will think any worse stuff. Yeah. Okay, let's look at Karl Mildenberger. That's him and Ali right there. Yeah. Now, the sport's long-term dominant heavyweights, Vladimir and Vitaly Klitschko, fought nearly their entire careers in Germany. German promotional houses Sauerland Events and Universal Boxing Promotions once was so influential that the most powerful American promoters, who once had no competition, cooperated with them to stage mega events in Germany. Okay? Naturally, Germany's emergence as a boxing powerhouse over the past couple of decades has heightened the profile of the late Max Schmeling, the legendary German boxer who was the world heavyweight champion in the 1930s. Media articles on German boxing often include reverential remarks about Schmeling, who is unquestionably the greatest native-born German heavyweight of all time. Schmeling's Olympian stature in German boxing history, however, Schmeling's Olympian status in German boxing history, however, has had the effect of causing the public and media to overlook the accomplishments of Germany's second greatest native-born heavyweight in history. That man is Karl Mildenberger, who was formidable enough to be a top contender for the competitive 1960s era, and who was sufficiently talented to fight a heroic losing effort against Muhammad Ali, whom many consider to be the greatest heavyweight of all time. Okay? Just Do Boxing in the building. Salute Just Do Boxing. This is Boxing in Germany today. Talking about Karl Mildenberger, second best German boxer of all time next to Max Schmeling. Okay? Let's talk a little bit more about Karl. Okay? Now, Karl Mildenberger's achievements are considerable. Now, guess this out. This is unbelievable. Here. He fought Ali in the 60s, I believe. He was the first southpaw to fight for the world heavyweight title. Unbelievable. In the 60s, the first southpaw to fight for the world heavyweight title. Wow. Isn't that something? The first southpaw to fight for the world heavyweight title, and this was in the 60s. You would have thought plenty of southpaws had fought, but he was the first one. From 1964 to 1968, Mildenberger held the European heavyweight title, which he successfully defended 6 times. During this period, Mildenberger was always ranked in the worldwide top 10 by Ring Magazine. He finished his pro career with an impressive record of 53 wins, 6 losses, 3 draws, 19 knockouts. Okay? Yeah. He was a slick, crafty southpaw, not a knockout guy. 53 wins, 19 knockouts. In the summer of 1967, Ring Magazine ranked Mildenberger as the world's #1 heavyweight contender based on his gritty losing effort against Ali. Yeah, 1967, the first southpaw to fight for the world heavyweight title. That's crazy. Okay. During these months, many speculated that Mildenberger might be the world's best heavyweight outside of Ali, Sonny Liston, and Joe Frazier. In fact, it was widely believed that Mildenberger would probably win the WBA elimination tournament established to crown a successor to Ali, who was forced into temporary retirement due to political and legal problems. Yeah, they had that tournament. A lot of people thought Mildenberger was going to win it. He was in it. He was picked by a lot of people to win that tournament, but he didn't. Jimmy Ellis won it. Remember, Joe Frazier would have won it, but Joe Frazier boycotted in support of Ali. In his prime, Mildenberger, at 6'1.5" and weighed between 190 and 200 pounds. He was a superb technical boxer who made effective use of his southpaw advantage, constantly peppering opponents with his fast, sharp right jab. Mildenberger's footwork was excellent. He exhibited fine lateral movement and tended to control the distance between himself and his opponents in the center ring. So he was a nice, slick southpaw. Most of Mildenberger's opponents, including some of the world's most skilled and experienced fighters, had extreme difficulty coping with his tricky southpaw boxing tactics. Yes, slick old southpaw. Now, in this article, the East Side reviews the career and accomplishments of Mildenberger, concluding with an exclusive interview with the former Top Gun senator himself. Now, the early years. Let's look at the early years for Mildenberger. Mildenberger was born on November 23rd, 1937 in Germany. I'm not messing with the name of that town. Okay. In Germany. He was introduced to boxing through his father's cousin, who was a national boxing champion at the time. As an amateur, Mildenberger won 52 of 64 fights and was the German light heavyweight champion in 1958. He fought several international fights as a member of the German national boxing team. In 1958, Mildenberger turned pro by scoring a first-round knockout over Manfred Streimer. Over the next 2 years, he fought 21 times, winning 20 fights and losing once. Okay, 2 years, 21 fights. Okay, that's an entire career nowadays. And he won 20 of them. Okay, by 1960, Mildenberger had grown physically and weighed a solid 185 pounds, which made him a full-fledged heavyweight. Yeah, nowadays he would be a cruiserweight. Okay, 185. That same year, Mildenberger scored his first major win by outpointing Italian Franco Cavicchi, okay, over 10 rounds. The win was all the more impressive because it took place in Cavicchi's hometown in Italy, where the local officials would have been biased against Mildenberger. But it was one of those fights where it was so convincing they couldn't cheat him, like Bud did Canelo a few months back, remember? Yeah. It was in Italy where this guy Cavicchi was from, but Mildenberger's win was so convincing, they couldn't cheat him. Had to give it to him. The following year, wins over tough American journeymen Wayne Bethea, Howard King, and Pete Rademacher, okay, established Mildenberger as one of Europe's best heavyweights. Internationally, Mildenberger was now regarded as a promising up-and-coming prospect who might eventually acquire world-class status. For the upwardly mobile Mildenberger, acquiring a European heavyweight title was his next career goal. In 1962, a fight with European champion Dick Richardson was arranged. As the victor of 30 out of 31 pro fights, the young, talented German was a solid favorite to beat Richardson, especially since the fight was staged on Mildenberger's home turf of Dortmund in Germany. Okay? He got the champion to come to Germany to fight him. But disaster struck when Richardson knocked out Mildenberger at 2:35 of the first round. A single right to the jaw put Mildenberger down for the count. Until the abrupt ending, Mildenberger had dominated the fight, connecting with right jabs and using fast footwork to make his Welsh opponent miss badly. But Mildenberger became overconfident, which led to his recklessly moving inside to attack Richardson's body. In doing so, Mildenberger dropped his guard and was laid out cold. Yeah, he was using his slick style, outboxing the guy and everything, dominating the round, got overconfident, want to go up in the pocket, and got knocked out cold. On the mat, 10 count knockout, not a TKO. He heard I don't know if he heard the referee say 10, but the referee said 10. He probably didn't hear, he was out cold. So the discouraged Mildenberger remained inactive for 7 months following the Richardson debacle. Yeah, back in then, 7 months. You know, he fought 20 times in like 2 years, so a 7-month layoff was a long time for somebody like him, the way he was fighting, right? But he was discouraged by that loss and he remained inactive for 7 months, right? But the loss turned out to be a blessing in disguise for the young heavyweight. Now aware of his overconfidence and vulnerabilities, Mildenberger worked hard in the gym to rectify his tactical flaws. Consequently, he returned to the ring a wiser, stronger, and more seasoned fighter. So a blessing in disguise. Now Mildenberger next won 10 of 11 straight fights. The only loss was a draw against cagey Philadelphia, Archie McBride, okay? He won 10 straight out of 11, and the only one he didn't win was a draw. In addition to soundly defeating McBride in a rematch, Mildenberger won important victories over established French contenders, Alonzo Johnson, Joe Bygraves, and Billy Daniels. The Daniels win was especially important as Mildenberger won the fight by a third-round knockout. In his 3 previous fights, Daniels had lasted the full distance against contenders Zora Farley, Doug Jones, and Cleveland Williams. Them 3 big names couldn't stop this guy, but Mildenberger did it in the 3rd round. You know, early 60s, Zora Farley, Doug Jones, Cleveland Williams was huge names. None of them could stop this guy, but Mildenberger stopped him, okay? So Mildenberger's biggest win during this period was an impressive 10-round decision over Welshman, Joe Erskine. In 1963, Erskine was a former British Commonwealth champion who held victories over George Chuvalo, Henry Cooper, and Willie Pastrana. Erskine had also defeated Richardson twice. Thus, the Erskine win was a psychological turning point for Mildenberger because it helped to put the Richardson loss behind him. As a result of his win over Erskine, Ring Magazine elevated Mildenberger to the number 8 spot in its worldwide rankings. Mildenberger had finally established himself as a contender. It was now time for him to challenge the biggest names in the heavyweight division. So let's see what happened as a top contender. In May 1964, Mildenberger faced his toughest career opponent yet in Zora Farley, a perennial top contender and the world's 5th-ranked heavyweight by Ring Magazine. For Mildenberger, this was a make-or-break fight. Either he would prove that he was a legitimate contender himself, or he would be dismissed as an also-ran, a pretender, not a contender, a pretender. The fight took place in Frankfurt, Germany. So Zora Farley went over to Germany. Now Mildenberger passed the test as he held the more experienced Farley to a hard-fought 10-round draw. Behind on points after 6 rounds, Mildenberger turned the fight around by unleashing a spirited attack in the 7th. In the 8th, however, disaster loomed as Mildenberger suffered a deep cut over his eye, necessitating an examination from the ringside doctor. Faced with the possibility of losing the fight due to cuts, Mildenberger rallied and outfought Farley in the final 2 rounds, thus salvaging a draw on the scorecards. So without a doubt, Mildenberger was now a legitimate top contender. In Europe, Mildenberger's only conceivable peer was Englishman Henry Cooper from Great Britain, and Cooper held the European Heavyweight Championship at the time. A planned fight between Cooper and Mildenberger was canceled when Cooper injured himself in training. The European Boxing Union then stripped Cooper of the title and matched Mildenberger with Italy's Santo Amati for the vacant title. Okay? Went up against Amati for the vacant title. Okay? So, in October 1964, Mildenberger won the European Heavyweight Championship in devastating fashion, knocking out Amati with a body shot at 132 of the 1st round. Holding the European title moved Mildenberger even higher in the world rankings. He finished 1964 by fighting a draw with tough, underrated American Amos Johnson. If anything, this draw may have enhanced Mildenberger's standing in Europe because several months later, Johnson meted out a sound beating to Henry Cooper in London. Okay? So they really made Mildenberger look good. He beat Johnson, and then Johnson went to London and beat Cooper badly. Okay? So in 1965, Mildenberger fought 5 times, emerging victorious each time. 2 of the wins, decisions over Piero Tomasani, were European title defenses. Mildenberger also scored a decision over tough American French contender Jefferson Davis. By the end of the year, Mildenberger was ranked number 5 by Ring Magazine. Then, American veteran Eddie Macon was Mildenberger's next opponent. They met in Frankfurt in February 1966. Until recently, the 33-year-old Macon had been a perennial top contender, but defeats in 1965 to Floyd Patterson and Ernie Terrell had cost him his world ranking, and he was now regarded as past his prime as a fighter. And Mildenberger clearly outpointed Macon over 10 rounds, with Macon often looking confused about how to cope with the German's tricky southpaw style. That's what you're supposed to do. Somebody ain't supposed to be in there with you. You go in there and you dominate. Okay, so now let's wind it up. Mildenberger fights Muhammad Ali for the world championship. Technique is in the building. What's up, Technique? Boxing in Germany today, Technique. We're talking about the second best German of all time. Of course, Max Schmeling is best, and Carl Mildenberger. So now, all of this in his career led up to his fight with Muhammad Ali. Let's talk about that. For the world title. And Ali went over to Germany to do that. It's another little story I'll tell you after this too. On September 10th, 1966, Mildenberger fought Muhammad Ali. At the time, Muhammad Ali was 25-0 with 20 knockouts. And this was for the world championship. The fight took place before 45,000 fans in Frankfurt, Germany. Wow. They got the name of the arena, but I don't know what that is. Man, I ain't even got time to write it in the chat. It probably take till 4 o'clock to write it. But it was in Frankfurt, right? Now, Ali won the fight by 12th round TKO. For Mildenberger, however, the fight was a moral victory because he troubled Ali throughout the fight and impressed the boxing world with his heroic resistance against the champion, Ali. Entering the fight, Ali was 24 years old at the time, at the peak of his abilities as a fighter. Many leading boxing experts regard the Ali of 1966 to have been the greatest heavyweight of all time. At 6'3" and 204 pounds, Ali was nearly 2 inches taller and 10 pounds heavier than Mildenberger, who entered the ring at 194.5 pounds. Not surprisingly, Ali was installed as a 10-1 betting favorite by the odds makers. But Mildenberger, in addition to being the first southpaw in history to fight for the World Heavyweight Championship, I still can't believe that. 1966, Mildenberger was the first southpaw to ever fight for the heavyweight championship. Wow. I mean, now plenty of them fought in other divisions, but first heavyweight in 1966, first southpaw. When I first read that this morning, I couldn't believe that. But yeah, okay. And he was the first southpaw Ali had faced as a pro. Now, Ali had lost twice to left-handed opponents as an amateur. Thus, there were hints that Mildenberger's southpaw style would trouble Ali. Okay? Ali won the first 3 rounds of the fight by scoring consistently with whiplash left jabs and occasional hard right leads to the head. But Mildenberger forced the action with his forward movement, often connecting with his right jab. Ali seemed confused about how to find his punching range against Mildenberger's awkward southpaw posture. Constantly, the champion was compelled to retreat as he struggled to control the distance between himself and the challenger. Yeah, and Ali was having trouble too. But he started throwing that lead right. You know, that lead right is a very good punch against the southpaw. But yeah, I watched this, and Ali was having trouble with Mildenberger, but then he started throwing that lead right, and that's what, when he really started, taking over. Yeah, but he was having trouble against Mildenberger's awkward southpaw posture. Constantly, the champion was compelled to retreat as he struggled to control the distance between himself and the challenger. Sometimes Mildenberger even stepped inside and shook Ali with hard punches to the head and body. Mildenberger increased his aggression in the fourth round, which he won by connecting with several hard left hands to Ali's head and body. The German crowd roared during this round as Mildenberger seemed to control the action, eagerly pressing his way inside as he chased Ali around the ring. In the fifth round, Mildenberger continued his spirited attack, but Ali regained control of the fight by finding the range with his left jab. Seconds before the end of the round, Ali scored a flash knockdown with a hard right hand to the head. Lead right, told you, the lead, when he started using that lead right a lot, that's when he took control. And he scored a knockdown with it in the end of the round. I believe it was the fifth round, end of the fifth round, right? Hard lead right to the head. Mildenberger was shaken, and his gloves briefly touched the canvas, but overall he appeared unhurt. More troubling for Mildenberger at this point was facial damage incurred from Ali's sharp blows. Both of Mildenberger's eyes were now swollen, and he was deeply cut on his right eye. Ali took complete control of the fight in the sixth round, and it appeared that the end might be near for the game challenger. Yeah, once he dropped it with that lead right, the next round, Ali took control of it. But early on, Mildenberger was doing a great job. He was doing a great job. Okay. So, yeah, Agent Carvalho technique is a great one. Probably the best one right now in German boxing. But dancing on his toes, Ali landed consistently with his left jab, and Mildenberger's right eye was nearly swollen shut. Mildenberger was also cut over his left eye. At the end of the round, he seemed seriously hurt by a hard right to the jaw. Amazingly, however, Mildenberger stormed back to win the seventh round. The crowd roared with excitement as Mildenberger connected with right jabs, forcing Ali into full retreat. In round 8, the action swung dramatically in Ali's favor as he hurt and floored Mildenberger with another lead right. At the end of the round, Ali trapped Mildenberger in a corner and battered him with lightning-fast hooks and uppercuts from both hands. But again, the bell saved Mildenberger from being knocked out in that round. But again, to the amazement of observers, Mildenberger recuperated and launched a spirited attack in the ninth round. Ali connected often with left jabs in the ninth, but he was constantly forced to retreat by Mildenberger's incessant right jabbing. At one point, Mildenberger landed a hard left to the body, which seemed to trouble Ali. Okay? Ali finally took complete control of the fight in the 10th round, even though Mildenberger's aggression never flagged. The action was intense in the 10th, as both fighters connected often with their jabs. Mildenberger at one point appeared to hurt Ali with a hard left hand to the body. Oh, wow. Now what happened? Yeah, he appeared to hurt Ali. Late in the round, however, Ali floored Mildenberger again with a huge right lead. Yeah, that right lead was working. You know, that's the opportune punch against the southpaw. If you're orthodox, that lead right hand, yeah. Because on that side, you know, you're going over there where his backhand is, you know. So yeah, but he floored him 3 times, all with lead rights. The German landed flat on his back after taking this blow, and it was obvious that the end was near. He battered him in the 11th round, but Mildenberger continued to show incredible resilience, always fighting back, regardless of being hurt. And the inevitable ending came in round 12 when Ali hurt Mildenberger with several fast looping uppercuts. As Mildenberger reeled after taking a final right lead to the head, referee Teddy Walton stopped the fight at 128 of the round. Yeah. Good action fight, though, if you like action. Now, after that fight, though, well, let's finish this. In the words of Nat Flight to Ring Magazine's chief editor at the time, Mildenberger gave a grand display of courage in Frankfurt. Fleischer also reported Muhammad Ali was surprised by the gameness and raw fighting quality of the German. And then the final stages of his career. Okay. He rebounded from the Ali loss. He began 1967. He won 3 consecutive fights. He outpointed Thomas Sawney in a rematch, followed by knockout wins over England's Billy Walker and American Amos Lincoln. And then he got into that tournament where Ali was stripped. They had a tournament to replace him. And a lot of people expected Mildenberger to win it, right? He was that good. But in the first round, he lost to Oscar Bonavena. Okay. Yep. He was solidly favored to beat Bonavena, the rugged Argentine. He was favored by 4-1 odds. But Bonavena, however, turned out to be too strong for Mildenberger. And he was knocked down 4 times by the powerful Argentine. And he lost the 12-round decision. 56-48, 57-53, 57-53. And the Bonavena defeat triggered the end of Mildenberger's professional boxing career. In 1968, Mildenberger was surprisingly knocked out in 7 rounds by American Leotis Martin. As a result of this loss, Mildenberger fell from the world rankings. 7 months later, he fought the last fight of his career, losing by 8th round disqualification to Henry Cooper in London. This defeat also ended Mildenberger's reign as a European heavyweight champion. And that was the end of it for him. Yep. Called Mildenberger. Now, after the Mildenberger fight, the referee, Teddy Walton, I think that was the referee's name, I just said it. But anyway, after the fight, at the airport, it was in Germany, right? The referee's luggage got stolen, and his purse for the fight was in there, and so he lost all his money he made for the referee in the fight, right? And so Ali was at the airport too, get ready to come back to the United States. By the way, that was Ali's last fight before the suspension, I think. But he was at the airport too, so some kind of way it got back to Ali that this referee had got, somebody stole his luggage and all his pay for the fight had been stolen with it. So Ali sent one of his team to go get him, bring him here. And Ali paid the referee out of his own pocket for the money that was stolen from him. And they asked Ali, why did you do that? Ali said, well, he needed it more than I did. And Ali was getting ready to be stripped, right? He didn't know when he was going to get his next payday, but he still paid the referee his money out of his own pocket. Yeah, Muhammad Ali, right? Yeah. Now, let's see. Let's talk about a couple of these active boxers before we get out of here. I wanted to cover some of them. I got some of the best. We're gonna go over real quick some of the best German boxers too. But yeah, then we're gonna get to these active boxers. Okay. Appreciate everybody for stopping by today. Hope you're enjoying yourself. I can't believe it's Thursday, man. Wow. We got Eubanks and Ben too this weekend. Coming right at us. I got Eubank again. By decision. A lot of people got him stopping Ben this time. So we'll see. Yeah, let's just go over real quick these top 10 German boxers. No, you ain't in it. We already talked about you, Max Mellon. Get off here. I'm trying to figure out where I'm at now. Yeah, I believe that's is that what's his name? What's the guy's name, y'all? Felix Sturm. Is that Felix Sturm? Yeah, I believe it is Felix Sturm. Yeah, Felix Sturm. We're gonna talk. I'm just going to mention. I'm not gonna go into him because we're running out of time now. Yeah, Felix Sturm. This is some of the top German boxers of all time. Felix Sturm Maybe Technique might realize a few of these names. Okay. Carl Mildenberger. Okay. Marco Hawk. I'm not even in the right place, man. Gustave Eder. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's Gustave Eder right there. Let me go back. That's Felix Sturm, Marco Huck. Gustave Eder. Yeah, that's Gustave. No, Sven Otke. Let's start with Sven Otke, okay. Arthur Abraham. Now I know that's Arthur Abraham. I know how Arthur looked. Yeah, Arthur Abraham. They're some of the best German boxers of all time. Jürgen Brähmer or Bramer, something like that. Okay. Gustav Schultz. Couple more. Henry Mask. Yeah, he was a good one. And that's it. So now let's look at some of these active boxers. Agit Carvalho first. Okay. There's Agit. We're going to look at a couple of German active guys. Okay. Just a little talk about him. That's Agit. These are active German boxers. Come on, man. Thank you for my damn hair. Excuse me. Agit Carvalho. Okay, there we go. And Agit is currently I had his record. There it is. Agit is currently 26-0 with 18 knockouts. Okay, right now. Now, of course, German-born pro boxer and a prominent figure in the heavyweight division. Currently, he has held the World Boxing Council interim heavyweight title since February 2025, which he currently holds, WBC interim. Carvalho has also won the European heavyweight title twice, in 2017 and 2024. He successfully defended the title multiple times, including a majority decision win over Derek Chisora in 2017. Carvalho's parents are from Pazarcik, Turkey, and he has fought in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Agit Carvalho. Okay, looking at some German fighters. Next. Oh no, here we go. With these names. I'm gonna do my best. I think this is right. Abbas Barrow. Abbas Barrow. Okay. German fighter. Now, he has held the WBA junior middleweight title since September 2025. Yeah, he just won that 2 months ago, remember? As an amateur, he won a bronze medal at the 2017 World Championships and a gold at the 2017 European Championships, both while competing at welterweight. And Abbas is currently 17 wins, 1 loss with 9 knockouts. Currently the what did I say he was? I forgot. WBA junior middleweight. Just won it in September. Abbas. Okay. Next we have Noah Mickelhan. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Don't laugh. There's Noah Rhea. Y'all know where I am with names. Okay. Y'all know what I'm talking about. He's currently 27 wins, 3 losses. He has 12 knockouts. Okay. Now, he's a former WBC Cruiserweight champion. He held the title from November 2023 until it was stripped due to a lack of mandatory defenses. He's known for his speed, footwork, and ability to end a fight with a single punch. He trains under Cuban coach Pedro Diaz and has a record, told you his record, 27 wins, 3 losses, 12 knockouts, 30 fights, okay? These are just some currently active German fighters boxing in Germany today. Michael Eifert. Now that's right. Ain't that right? Ain't that how you say that? Michael Eifert. Michael Eifert. Right? Michael Eifert. Winding down. We got Just Do Boxing coming up next. Michael Eifert. Michael is currently 13 wins, just 1 loss, 5 knockouts for Michael. Okay. Okay. Now he competes in the light heavyweight division, where he's the current mandatory challenger for the IBF belt. Michael Eifert. Current mandatory challenger for that IBF strap. Who has that? Which one has that? Apataya or the other guy? Vincenzo Gualtieri. Vincenzo Gualtieri or something like that. But there's a picture of him. I messed his name up, but I got a picture of him. There's Vincenzo. These are just some currently German fighters since boxing in Germany today. Vincenzo is currently 24 wins, 1 loss, 1 draw, 8 knockouts for Vincenzo, right? He held the IBF middleweight title from July 2023 to October 2023. Vincenzo. Okay. Alim Becic. I think. There's Alim. Alim, Begic. Becic. Currently, Alim is 29 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 23 knockouts, 79.3% knockout ratio for Alim. He's a southpaw, right? And he was born in Munich, March 7th, 1987, and still lives there today. He's trained by Bjorn Schultz and manages himself. Okay? He had the IBF European Champion, WBO Intercontinental Champion, WBO European Champion, and he was a WBO European Super Middleweight Champion. I think he currently holds that. Yeah. Okay. Now, these ones, I couldn't find no write-up. Hussein Sin Cara, 23 wins, no losses, 19 knockouts, 82.6% knockout ratio. Leon Hart, 23 wins, 6 losses, 1 draw, 14 knockouts. Roman Fress, 23 wins, 1 loss, 13 knockouts. Tahir Karavic, 23 wins, no losses, 15 knockouts. Simon Zackenhuber, 28 wins, no losses, 17 knockouts. Ardian Krasnicki, 11 wins, no losses, 11 knockouts, 100% knockout ratio for Ardian. Diab Simon Darshaw, 25 wins, no losses, 1 draw, 25 knockouts, 100% knockout ratio and final, and that's it. Okay, those are current German boxers that take us to the door out. Just Do Boxing is coming up next. Tomorrow for the profile is the life and career of Mikey Garcia. Okay, so join me for that. That should be good. Then I appreciate everybody that stopped by today. Technique, Just Do Boxing, Cameron Terrell, Mike Rim, Irony Boxing, Al Booger, Mike Mazik, and Miss Cass. Appreciate everybody. 1,000,000%. Don't forget, join me tomorrow for the life and career of Mikey Garcia. Because if it's Monday through Friday, 2 p.m., it's the Boxtorian bringing you all of that boxing history. Just Do Boxing up next. This is Cass Sports, the Boxtorian. Appreciate y'all 1,000,000%. Everybody have a great afternoon.